It was pretty shocking news that landed on Friday, March 28th, 2025.
Yeah.
The passing of Atlanta rapper Young Scooter
Right.
on his 39th birthday.
You know what's crazy is like I woke up and like the first thing I saw was like R.I.P. Young Scooter.
Right.
And I was like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
And yeah, the circumstances
The circumstances surrounding it all are,
yeah, from the get-go felt really unexpected.
yeah, and have definitely sparked a lot of questions.
A lot of questions, yeah.
For people who might not have followed his career super closely,
Mhm.
Young Scooter was a real fixture in the Atlanta scene.
Big time.
Connected musically with some major players.
Yeah.
Think Future, Gucci Mane, Waka Flocka Flame.
Absolutely. Some of the big names.
And a key moment early on was his signing with Future's Free Bands label,
Yeah, that was big.
which really amplified his reach.
Oh, for sure.
He had that undeniable track Columbia
Oh, a classic.
that was huge regionally.
One of those ones you couldn't escape,
Oh, absolutely.
everywhere.
And his Street Lottery mixtape,
Oh, yeah.
was a defining project
Absolutely.
that cemented his place.
Cemented his name, no doubt.
So you can see why his sudden death has resonated so profoundly.
Definitely. I mean, it's a big loss for Atlanta. It's a big loss for hip-hop. It's a big loss for music in general, honestly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So what we want to do here is really unpack what we understand
Mm-hmm.
about the events surrounding his passing
Yeah.
based on the initial information that's come to light.
That's right. We're looking at a situation where
Yeah.
we have these initial official accounts starting to surface,
Yeah.
but at the same time, there's a lot of raw emotion
Yeah.
and, understandably, speculation
Oh, absolutely.
circulating, particularly across social media platforms.
Okay, so let's get into what
Yeah.
the Atlanta Police Department has reported so far.
Go.
According to their account, they responded to a 911 call down on William Nye Drive in southeast Atlanta.
All right.
The call described a dispute where shots had been fired
Okay.
and a woman was being forcibly brought back into a residence.
That's a pretty alarming situation to respond to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Shots fired, potential kidnapping. I mean, that's
Oh.
high alert.
It's a chaotic scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the police narrative continues from there.
Okay.
They say that when the officers arrived
Yeah.
at the location, a man opened the door, but then immediately closed it.
That's a detail that makes you wonder, right?
That's suspicious.
Right.
What prompted that reaction?
Something's not right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, why open the door at all?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And as the police began to set up a perimeter around the house, two men reportedly took off from the back.
Okay, so now you have folks fleeing the scene,
Yeah.
adding to the suspicious nature of it all.
One of them did come back,
Okay.
but the other, who has now been identified as Young Scooter, apparently jumped over two fences in an attempt to get away.
Okay.
So this is where the official account takes a turn.
Yeah.
That, a lot of people found surprising.
Okay.
The police state that they located him
Oh.
on the other side of those fences,
Mm-hmm.
and he had sustained an apparent leg injury.
Okay.
They then provided aid at the scene,
Okay.
and he was subsequently transported to Grady Memorial Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Tragically, it was there that he was pronounced dead.
It's tragic.
And it's really important to note that the police have been quite clear
Okay.
about how they say he sustained that injury.
Right.
They've stated definitively that it was not caused by them
Mm-hmm.
and that their officers did not fire any shots.
Okay.
Their explanation is that the injury occurred while he was fleeing,
Mm-hmm.
and they've suggested it could have been a fracture resulting from the fall as he jumped the fences.
Okay. That seems plausible, but,
Yeah.
you can't help but wonder,
Right.
especially given the circumstances
Right.
and the immediate questions that started popping up online.
Right.
Exactly. What's really striking is the immediate contrast
Yeah.
between this official account
Yeah.
and the wave of reactions that quickly spread, especially online,
Yeah.
in these kinds of rapidly unfolding situations.
Yeah.
We often see this tension between the need for official due process,
Yeah.
to really investigate what happened
Right.
and the immediate emotional responses
Yeah.
driven by personal connection and community trust,
Mm-hmm.
or in some cases, a lack thereof.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Social media was instantly buzzing
Oh, yeah,
with questions and, understandably, concerns.
of course.
Initially, there were unconfirmed reports, and it's crucial to emphasize that these were unconfirmed,
Right.
suggesting the possibility that young Scooter might have been shot by the police.
Right.
This, as you can imagine, sparked a lot of alarm and intense emotion,
Of course.
especially given the current climate and,
Yes, the history of police brutality and
you know, the mistrust that exists in certain communities.
right.
It's not surprising that people would jump to that conclusion.
And beyond just those initial fears of police involvement,
Right.
there were also questions circulating about the circumstances of the dispute mentioned in the 911 call.
Oh, yeah. Like, what exactly was going on there?
Right.
What was the nature of this dispute?
And some fans expressed disbelief at the idea of Scooter fleeing on foot, given his public image.
Right. You know, his persona
Right.
as this kind of tough street figure.
Yeah, so that added another layer.
Yeah, another layer of intrigue.
Intrigued this.
And we saw a very strong
Right.
and deeply emotional reaction from young Scooter's son,
Right.
Kenneth Bailey Jr.
Yeah.
His Instagram story posts conveyed intense anger and disbelief directed at the Atlanta Police Department.
Right.
He expressed feelings that the police didn't understand his father, and he shared his heartbreak over losing his best friend. Those are incredibly powerful words
They are.
coming from a grieving son.
I mean, you could just feel the raw emotion,
Yeah.
you know, in his words.
Yeah.
This intense personal grief was echoed and amplified by many within the music community,
Right.
really highlighting the impact young Scooter had on his peers.
Absolutely.
You know, he was clearly a beloved figure,
Right.
and his loss is deeply felt.
They truly are powerful words.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just his family who reacted.
Right.
Others within the music industry
Yeah.
also shared their thoughts and paid tribute to him. We saw reactions from artists like Playboi Carti, Quavo, and Waka Flocka Flame.
Yeah.
Waka Flocka's emotional Instagram story,
Yeah.
where he referred to Scooter as the backbone,
Yeah.
really underscored the depth of their close bond.
Yeah. I mean, they came up together,
Right.
you know, in the Atlanta scene. They had a long history together.
We also saw King Academics covering the news in the early stages.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that in those initial moments, there was a significant amount of uncertainty
Right.
and various rumors circulating
Yeah.
before more official details started to emerge.
Yeah. That's the nature of social media.
Right.
Things spread so quickly.
Yeah.
And it's hard to filter out
Right.
the truth from the speculation.
And academics did mention those early unconfirmed reports concerning potential police involvement.
Right.
It's a good reminder of how quickly information and
Yeah.
sometimes misinformation
Yeah.
can spread in these situations.
Exactly.
And it's also worth noting that some initial social media posts, such as those from Justine Washington, also contributed to the initial confusion
Right.
surrounding the circumstances.
Yeah, it was like a lot of different narratives and pieces of information floating around.
Right.
And it took some time for even a preliminary picture
Yeah.
to start to form.
This official narrative from the police, however, was almost immediately met with a wave of questions.
Yeah.
And a very different emotional response online.
Yeah, that's that tension we were
Yeah.
talking about earlier between the official narrative and the community's perception.
This brings us to the critical aspect of the official investigation.
Okay.
The Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office has confirmed the fact of young Scooter's death,
Right.
which provides the first definitive piece of information.
Okay.
However, they also stated that the specific cause and manner of death are still actively under investigation,
Okay.
and that an autopsy will be performed.
Okay, so we're still waiting on the official findings
Yeah,
from the medical examiner.
which is, of course, standard procedure
Yeah, standard procedure.
in circumstances like these.
Right.
And adding another significant layer to this,
Mm-hmm.
the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the GBI,
Okay.
has been called in
Okay.
to conduct an independent investigation into the entire incident. This was confirmed by the Atlanta Police Department themselves.
So you have an external agency
Yeah.
coming in to investigate,
Yeah.
which often happens in these high-profile cases.
And it's interesting
Yeah.
when law enforcement agencies involve an external body, like the GBI,
Yeah.
to conduct an investigation.
Right.
It often signals a commitment to ensuring transparency and objectivity.
That's the idea, at
Yeah.
least to have that outside perspective
Right.
to ensure that everything is being looked at fairly.
Particularly when there are differing accounts or
Yeah.
significant public concern.
Yeah, because in this case, you have the police account,
Yeah.
and then you have the family and the community who are raising questions
Yeah.
and expressing their doubts.
It makes you wonder
Yeah.
if the proactive nature of the police
Mm,
in releasing details about the injury
right.
was perhaps aimed at preempting some of the speculation we've
Yeah.
seen online.
Yeah, it's possible
Right.
that they were trying to get ahead of the narrative
Yeah.
and control the information flow,
Yeah.
especially with the potential for things to escalate
Yeah.
on social media.
The GBI's involvement certainly suggests
Mhm.
they recognize the need for an impartial examination of what transpired.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's particularly intriguing at this point are the unanswered questions that still remain.
Yeah, there's still a lot of unknowns.
For instance, the identity and current whereabouts
Yeah,
of the woman who was mentioned in the initial 911 call
right.
are still unknown to the public.
Yeah, we don't know who she is.
Yeah.
Or what her involvement was.
Yeah.
Or where she is now.
What was her role in the dispute that was reported?
Yeah, that's a key question.
Why was she reportedly being forcibly brought back into the residence?
Yeah, what was the nature of that situation?
These are key pieces of the puzzle
Absolutely.
that are currently missing.
Yeah, without that information,
Right.
it's hard to fully understand the context.
And perhaps one of the most pressing questions
Yeah.
is why did the two men, including young Scooter,
Right.
attempt to flee the scene when the police arrived?
Yeah, what were they running from?
What were they apprehensive about?
Yeah, what was happening inside that residence that might have led to this sequence of events?
These are the central unknowns
Yeah,
that the ongoing investigations will hopefully clarify in due course.
we can only hope.
So if we connect this to the broader context,
Mm-hmm.
what you see is a situation with multiple layers of complexity.
Oh, absolutely.
You have the official account from the police
Yeah.
outlining a series of events that culminated in a fatal injury sustained while fleeing,
Right.
juxtaposed with that.
Yeah.
You have the immediate skepticism
Yeah.
and profound grief
Mm-hmm.
expressed by young Scooter's son
Right.
and many of his peers within the music industry,
Yeah.
clearly fueled by those initial rumors of potential police involvement.
Yeah, and their personal feelings about Scooter.
It paints a really intricate picture,
It does.
and it really underscores the importance of waiting for the complete findings
Mm-hmm.
from both the medical examiner's report
Right.
and the independent investigation being conducted by the GBI
Absolutely.
until those are finalized and made public.
Yeah.
We really only have fragments of the overall story.
Yeah, we're dealing with partial information
Right.
and a lot of speculation.
What does this incident,
Hmm.
with its blend of official statements
Yeah.
and deeply emotional reactions from family and the music community,
Mm-hmm.
tell us about the complexities inherent in police encounters?
It's a tough question,
Yeah.
but it's an important one.
And the significant impact they can have on communities,
Mhm.
particularly within the close-knit world of hip-hop,
Right.
where personal relationships and reputations are so intertwined.
I mean, it really speaks to the larger issue
Right.
of police accountability
Yeah,
and the need for transparency
absolutely.
and trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve.
It truly prompts you to consider the various perspectives at play here.
Yeah, you have the police presenting their version of events,
Yeah.
the family and friends grappling with a sudden and devastating loss,
Mm-hmm.
and a wider community seeking clarity and answers.
And all of those perspectives are valid.
Well, absolutely.
Right.
And they all need to be considered.
It really highlights the fundamental need for thorough and transparent investigations
Absolutely.
to truly understand the complete narrative
Right.
and to address the legitimate concerns and questions
Mhm.
that have been raised by so many.
It's the only way to get to the truth
Right.
and to ensure justice.
What ultimately occurred on William Nye Drive that night
Yeah.
remains an unfolding story.
We're still waiting for answers,
Yeah.
and hopefully those answers will come soon.
And it's one that has clearly deeply affected a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a tragedy all around.